Hi there everybody, hope you're all doing really great. This is Rob Hirons for a tips and advice video. Now, this hole here in the bass drum, what's it all about? Well, you get your first drum kit, you set up the bass drum, comes with a fully intact head with no hole in here, and yet everywhere you look, left, right and center, everybody seems to have this strange hole of about this size here, just slightly adjacent to the center and down towards the bottom of the bass drum head. What's it for? Do you need it? Are there any advantages to it? Does your bass drum need it? How do we cut it out? Let's check that out. Stay tuned. So here it is. Now, you buy your first drum kit, you set the bass drum up, and it will very, very likely come with a fully intact bass drum head in white or black, and it'll probably have the logo like this logo here for Mapex, but a fully intact bass drum head with no hole. Now, like I just said, everywhere you look, everybody seems to have a hole of approximately this kind of size, and quite often to one side, but specifically towards the bottom. Now, what's it for, and do you need one? Well, basically, you don't really need this hole in the bass drum. That's the first thing I've got to say. But quite early on in your career, you're very likely to find yourself playing live, get yourself in a band, you go out playing live, or maybe you want to record your drum set, and the first thing you're going to find is an engineer comes along with a microphone, he looks at your bass drum head, there's no hole in it, and he will very, very likely ask you to put a hole in the bass drum, and there you have 2 minutes while everybody else is setting up to make a makeshift hole. Believe me, I know it's happened to me. So the best thing to do in that case is maybe to create one probably very clean, exactly where you want it before this scenario happens. It's one of the several reasons we have this hole, to accommodate a microphone. Now, we can place a microphone in front of the head with no hole if we want, right here, and we will get a reasonable sound. But we might lack a little bit of attack from the batter head side, which is why engineers prefer this hole. They put the microphone just here, and then they get the full sound of the bass drum and the full sound of the attack from the batter side. It's ease of access for the bass drum microphone. Let's just take a look at what it looks like with the microphone placed correctly. So here it is. Here is where the engineer is likely to want to place his bass drum microphone, on a little stand like this, for example, just inside the hole, just like this. Better off letting the engineer place it exactly as he wants it. But this hole immediately gives access to the inside of the bass drum and of course to the attack from the batter head side. So the engineer will place the bass drum microphone like this, and of course inside you will have, probably very likely here, a little bit of damping, maybe some sheets or something like that to dampen the head from the batter side and maybe also from the resonant side. And one other advantage of the bass drum hole, and believe me, it is a great advantage, is to be able to move the damping around and place it as you want. Because believe me, when you get your drum kit and you open up, you take off the resonant head here and you put your damping in, you fix the resonant side, there's no hole, and the damping that you've placed correctly moves, and you have to take off the resonant head again and put it back in the right place. So this hole facilitates access, because of course you can change the damping and how much damping that you wish to have on your sound by just putting your hand here and moving it about. And then here goes the microphone, just like this. Now, there are also some circumstances where in certain cases there may not be a microphone stand for the bass drum microphone. I've come across this many times. You just have a microphone, there's no stand, and if you had no hole in the bass drum, you'd be putting it on the floor here, which is just totally unacceptable. So what quite often happens is they just take the microphone and they put it on the floor of the bass drum here, on the damping of course, and that can work. It's not ideal. The best thing to do to have a stand, but that can work. And obviously you can't do that if you have a fully intact bass drum head with no hole. Now, another advantage which you may not have considered of having a hole in the bass drum is actually the feel when you're playing the bass drum. Now, if you have a bass drum with both the batter head, of course, and the resonant head fully intact and no hole in the bass drum, it can create an unwanted bounce when the beater strikes the batter head. I've felt this many, many times. And as soon as you put this hole in the bass drum, the feel changes completely. The air escapes a lot quicker and you don't have this unwanted bounce. And believe me, it can be very, very strange, this unwanted bounce coming back when the beater strikes the batter head. So that is one extra advantage of having this hole in the bass drum. Now, how do you cut it out and where do you cut it out on the bass drum head? Well, let's look at where first, okay? Now, as you can see, almost always it's down the bottom here and to one side. And why is this? Well, first of all, why at the bottom? Well, this is again a facility of access thing. Okay, if it's down at the bottom, then the engineer has a choice of how he can access it. He may have only big stands left, in which case he can put the boom coming right down back here. He may have just small stands, or he may have just a really small straight stand. I've seen that. So this really gives much better access if the hole is at the bottom of the bass drum head. It's much easier to access than if the hole is at the top. And quite often we have the logo here. You don't be messing about putting a hole at the side here. It's going to look really strange. So it's going to be generally down towards the bottom here, out of the way of the logo. Facility of access for the microphone stand, whatever the size. Why towards one side? Well, again, facility of access, quite simply. Now, as you can see here, I've got a small boom stand. A lot of drum kits on stage will either have their own riser, and the bass drum will be towards the front of the riser, and there won't be much space in front of the bass drum, or maybe they're on a small stage, you'll have a singer or a guitarist in front of you, there won't be much space in front of the bass drum again, and really you want to avoid having the engineer have to put the stand for the microphone bang in front of the bass drum. So it's quite often towards the side here and accessed with the boom coming from the side here. So that's why it's useful to have the hole over to one side, because quite often the access for the microphone is going to be coming to from one side here for space reasons. So how do we cut a hole in the bass drum without making a complete mess of it? Well, like I said in the beginning of this video, what you want to do is to avoid finding yourself in a situation where maybe you just bought a new drum kit and you go to your first gig, and I've done this, as I said, go to your first gig with this drum kit, and then the engineer comes along with the microphone and the stand and he looks at you and where's the hole in the bass drum, and you've got to go and find somebody with a knife or some scissors and do the best you can to not make a right hash of it. Okay, so the best thing to do is to prepare for that in advance. Go to a drum shop and get a bass drum hole cutting kit. This consists of a sticker, a round sticker like this with a reinforced edge, and you put it where you want, you stick it to the bass drum, and then you cut on the inside, and the reinforced edge ensures that you make it a very, very nice clean cut all the way around. And once it's in place, that reinforced edge will also avoid cuts towards the outside of the hole here when, for example, you're putting a microphone in, or maybe you're putting your hand in to move the damping a little bit, and quite often you can just cut the edge. And this reinforced ring that you'll find with this kit really helps to strengthen the hole and avoid any damage, because once there's a little cut here, a little crack in the hole, believe me, when you're playing the drum kit, when you're playing the bass drum, it will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it'll finish as a complete mess. So guys, I hope I've answered a few of your questions about this hole here in the bass drum. If you need it, what's it for, the advantages, maybe some other things you didn't realize. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact me and I'll do my best to answer them. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to check out my website, robhironsdrums.com. You can go there and you will find many courses, new courses coming all the time, full drum courses on all sorts of subjects for beginner, intermediate, advanced players. You can sign up for free if you want, as a free subscription, which will give you access to certain courses, some mini courses, some other advantages, or you can sign up with a paid subscription, which is only $3.75 a month, paid yearly, which comes to just $45 for the whole year, and you have full access to everything on the site. Thanks again for watching, and see you again soon for more tips and advice.